Hi everyone, my name is Billy and I'm one of the volunteers here at CGE currently working on Inside Out. We are super happy to bring you this interview conducted with Gerrit Onstein, a seasoned youth worker with years of experience in outdoor education. We hope you can all learn something from him and thank you for listening.
Just starting by introducing a bit of really what is this project about. So I'm
hmm
working with this organization in Germany called Culture Goes Europe, and we are doing research about the good practices related to outdoor education, especially working with young migrants that are in NEET situations, so not employed, not in education, not in training. And we know that you are an outdoor trainer, a specialist, a youth worker, and you own Outtrack. And so we would like to invite you for some questions and have your personal opinions and your personal views on these matters. So maybe you would like to introduce a little bit about yourself and Outtrack?
Oh, um, first of all, you can check my website. It's also in English,
Mhm.
so maybe you can find some things you can use. And otherwise, if not, send me a message. I have a lot of articles, and if you want some specific, I can send. For me, I think it started about 25, 30 years ago when I worked for a school for children with special needs. It was we were a small school, a small setting, and we worked with kids with heavy behavior problems, as I told you.
Mhm.
If we couldn't help them, they would otherwise go to jail or they had to be on the street.
Mhm.
Um, so we were their last option and their last possibility to get back into a regular system. But we only worked on behavioral issues. So we had many to deal with many issues from very different ranges. It was kids from other countries, migrants we had, but also kids who grew up in neighborhoods with bad reputation, um, many minorities, etc., etc. And in a combination with low IQ, mentally issues, so it was a melting pot of problems we had to deal with.
Mhm.
And we choose to approach the kids with the idea behind you have two kind of problems within a kid, the child own actor and the environmental actor. And the combination of it makes how they deal with their problems. We said, first of all, we are for the kid and we want to give them a safe space to keep them the opportunity to show up why they were on our school and not on a regular school.
Mhm.
What's they were allowed to show their bad habits, and we want to see it because if you don't see it, you can't deal with it. And I had once a period in my life, I had a kind of burnout, and when I had that burnout, I started to train obstacle running. In
Ah,
Holland, we call it survival running. It's 20, 24 kilometers running with 60 obstacles,
wow.
off-road running, through the water. You have to do a lot of many different disciplines.
Something
And I
really
know,
easy.
sorry,
Something really easy to do.
no, you have to train very hard for it. You have to run, you have to climb in ropes, nets, you have to kayak, archery, everything is in it. And I noticed that it worked in a positive way for me, being
Mhm.
physically, mentally, move on your borders. And I noticed that it worked in a positive way for me. To the main thing that it worked for me, it was because of it made me reset my mind,
Mhm.
set the goals on the right altitude, step by step by step. And I thought, what works for me, it maybe also could work for these kids. So, and we were a special school, and my principal said, if you think it works for you and it works for our kids, go ahead and try it out.
Mhm.
So 7 years ago, I started to take these kids, first one, then two, to this training center in the outdoors with a lot of obstacles. And I started to work with them over there. And what happened was, the first thing that happened was I got in contact with them. They didn't have to show up with other things that they had to, that helped them to survive on the street.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was I saw the real kids, and they dared to show, I can't do this. Can you help me? And that's the first thing that I wanted to achieve, to create a safe space where they could ask for help.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense.
Because that's where it starts with. Many
Mhm.
kids and youngsters don't ask to dare for help.
Mm-hmm.
You probably remember that also from the project in Armenia. Many young people overweight themselves for several reasons. I don't know if you, it was in Macedonia project. There was a guy from Armenia. We had a rest at the end of a trek, and there were mountains from 3,000 meters around us. And he's asked, "Can I go for a quick hop on that top?" And he had normal shoes. He wasn't completely prepared for it. And the road to the top was full with snow, and it was a steep angle. I said, "Go ahead, but how long do you think it will take you?" 20 minutes. I showed him the route description. I said, "It will take you 90 minutes at least to get on the top and then get back safely. So it will be 2.5 hours."
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. So he didn't, he wasn't complete, he was completely unaware about what was in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what nature does and the outdoor does. It can be very confrontating in a very simple way.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
I
How
started to
did he go up?
nope, nope. I think he trusted my my answer. But once I noticed that it worked 25, 30 years ago for these kids I worked for, then I started to do some courses, outdoor
Okay.
instructor.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Canada for my survival skills, etc., etc. You try to combine things,
Mm-hmm.
and now it has settled, and people accept it, and they see
Mm-hmm.
the need of it and the benefits of using the outdoors as a tool.
Yeah, what do you think are the benefits exactly from using this type of methodology?
Sometimes when people ask me this question, I ask them a simple question. Um, First of all, please, you do it now. Close your eyes and go back to class 3 of your primary school,
Mm-hmm.
the first, or maybe class 4. What
Mm-hmm.
do you see?
What do
What
I
do you,
see?
yeah, what do you see?
Playing in the playing with my friends
In,
in the timeout. Uh,
but
yeah,
just a
falling
class,
down.
but try to imagine that classroom that you were in when you were 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, it was so strict. The
Uh-huh.
classroom itself, it was just all white and some drawings, but everybody had to sit very straight. Uh,
Uh-huh. Did
and
you also felt some pressure that you had to learn mathematics, grammatics, etc., etc.? Did you feel that pressure in that classroom?
uh, I was starting to feel it. It was the
Okay,
beginning of it. Yeah, maybe not yet because I was so young that I was not feeling exactly the pressure,
okay. But
but
you
I was
always,
already
yeah. Okay,
seeing.
now let's go back to our base camp in Armenia.
Uh-huh.
Close your eyes again. And do you remember that base campsite, that campsite we were sitting and sleeping?
Mhm.
What's your first reaction when you think of that base camp?
Oh, some freedom, community, mm, uh, helping each other. Uh,
Uh-huh.
working for the same purpose, but not really working, more coming together for a common thing, and freedom, most of all.
What about pressure?
What about?
Pressure. Did you feel the need that you had to show up with things that you had to? Did you feel any pressure of working and
No,
learning? No.
no,
But still, it was a classroom.
yeah, true.
That's our classroom. Do you notice now what you said about the two differences that you felt about the two different classrooms? Well, for me, that's the answer to your question.
Mm-hmm.
It is a classroom, but it doesn't give kids and others the idea that they are in a classroom, but they are, and that's the benefit. So we can learn them things without the pressure, give them the feeling of you have to. No, by itself, it's an experiential learning process. And then you need some tricks to get back to the learning. Mostly
But for example, I believe you have worked with different groups, right? Adults, youngsters, people who are already advanced in these skills for outdoor, people who are just starting. For example, with young kids that from migrant background and that with these behavioral problems, or that they just don't know how to find a way in life and are a bit lost. What do you think is how do we engage them to come and to show up and to be there and to
First of all, the tool is the same. It doesn't matter for who you work. It can be managers for next week. I'm working with supermarket managers for 3 days in the outdoors. They start a new course as a manager, and we call it kind of detoxing. Forget everything you learned and start new now. And that is when you take people to the outside, you need to know a little bit about their backgrounds. With special needs, especially with migrant backgrounds, they might be traumatized. They have deep traumas, which we don't know. But I'm sure they will have them, traveling a long time, leave everything behind, etc., etc. We had some of these kids at our school. So you have to be aware of the impact of your role. I'm not a therapist. I will never be a therapist because I didn't have any education for it. But we can use it as a coaching tool or a mentoring tool. If you take your role as a mentor or whatever you want. So if you take kids with these backgrounds into nature, you have to be aware of some things that can happen. For instance, you remember Armenia. We were in Macedonia.
No, we
Armenia.
were in Armenia, yeah, in Diligen.
They won this young Armenian girl. She was having a kind of panic attack. You remember?
Yes.
I couldn't help her at that moment with her personal traumas. The only thing we could do is giving first a kind of mentally first aid.
Yes.
If you see what's happening, try to give them a tool to deal with it. What I did was just take control of your breath, take your breath down, because she was hyperventilating. She was going up, 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 up. So the first thing I had to do, I had to get in contact with her. Look me in the eyes, please look me in the eyes. She didn't, she was, I don't know if you saw it, but she was looking down, down, down.
I remember.
Yeah, look me in the eyes. I want you to focus on my eyes. And when she did that, then step 2 is coming. And I didn't ask her what the cause of these attacks was, but just try to give her some tools to deal with it on that moment. And she did very fine afterwards, I think.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. just be there, right? It's also that part of the support, right? Be ready to some triggers to happen and some moments to happen, and if you are aware of that, then you can also support easily, right? But it's tell me.
You remember the three zones: the comfort zone, the learning zone, and the panic zone.
Yes.
Actually, that's the base of it. You take people out of their comfort zone. And why do you do that? You want to see how they learn and how they react on different situations on which they have no control, maybe. Where do they lay on? Is it their intuition? Do they dare to lean on an instructor or other members of the group? Or what what are their competences to stay in the learning zone instead of getting into the panic zone? And kids with special needs, especially kids from refugee kids, they have a long journey behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Seen kids who had to survive in a system that we can't imagine. They have gained some survival skills to survive in that situation. But that's what I call crisis management.
Yes.
They had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, you can't use these techniques, skills. It will work against you. So you have to reset people again and give them the opportunity to reset again. And the outdoors doesn't cost anything, and it's there, and you can take people into a zone where they can. Sometimes I say. You try to get them into that learning zone and want them to learn to deal with it.
And do you see long-term effects, long-term positive impacts on the people that you have worked with?
Sometimes I meet people again. Normally, when they leave school or they leave your project, you never have contact anymore. But sometimes you see some kids back after years and years and years. For instance, when I worked on that school, we did many working and sporting projects in the south of France. We had kids had to work, and when they did well, we did some activities for them. There was one kid. He was a kid from the street. He was a burglar. He stole a lot of things. He was a little criminal, but also a fighter on the street. And I was not used to fight. But we were in France, and this kid was constantly looking for borders. He was cheating. Oh, you dumb guy from a farmer village, and this and that. And my colleague, who's also a guy from the street, he said, "You have to deal with him now. Otherwise, he will rule the whole project, and he will make the rules. You have to show him that you're the boss. So take him out." And he went, "Well, come on, what you want? What you want?" I said, "Come on, go out. Let's go out and let's see who is the smartest guy here." We were walking down the stairs, and my colleague said, "Remember one thing, be meaner than he is." I said, "What do you mean? I'm not a street fighter. If you don't, he will win." So I didn't wait when he was down the stairs. He had 2 steps to go. I jumped on his back and threw him on the floor. I said, "Okay, who is making the rules for the project? What kind of project do you want? You want to have a good project or a bad project?" "Whoa," he said. He fell with his ribs on a rock. And he said, "You're more mean than I am." "Yes, exactly. But what do you want from me? You want to have a good project or a bad project? If you want to have a bad project, go away." And we had the best project we had. And years later, I think it was maybe 10 years later, he came back on our school. He visited just for a visit. You know what the first thing he was talking about? That incident. He said, "If you wouldn't have done that, you would have lost me. And I wouldn't accept you to help me."
And how was it for you to do that? Because you began this story saying you were not prepared, right?
it was not my style. It's more than 30 years ago, I think. It was not my style. I had to learn it. And it was also the way we dealt with these kids. It was quite unorthodox. Nowadays, you can't do it anymore
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
they will sue you.
Mm-hmm.
Those days, um, we knew if um, um, we were not in control, they would take over control, and then you're lost.
Mm-hmm.
They can be in control, but in a controlled way. We
Mm-hmm.
set the frame, and they could act within that frame, but we set the frame.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They can decide how they deal within that frame. But for instance, no, we didn't accept knives and weapons in school, and sometimes we knew they had knives with them. And sometimes by accident we found them. We took them and we called their parents, and they could get their knife back.
Mm-hmm.
But no drugs, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But for the rest, we wanted to give them a place how that they could show up, why
Yes.
they act like they act, and
Yes,
then
but
we can.
also it's we are talking about the people who already have this kind of channel of communication, even if it's from school or some organization where we can get to them and invite them and they show up. But what about these other people who maybe don't have the means, who don't know about it? How do we tackle this problem of coming also to these other people that maybe are still not aware of
Mm.
these opportunities or don't have the means to
Mm.
enjoy and to enroll?
What is the main competence you think they will need in that process, in that state?
Hmm, I don't know. I don't know. Guidance, help, support. They will need.
I think the two main competences is trust.
Mm,
They have to, they will need the capability to build up trust.
yes.
And for that, you need to communicate.
Okay.
Skills are skills that many kids um, need to learn to deal with it, to express their feelings. And but for that, you need to set first a safe environment, and you have to do some trust building activities
Mm-hmm.
that they feel a free space to open up and to communicate. And
Mm-hmm.
then but it starts with little things.
And do these little things start still in a safe zone, for example, the classroom or the school, or do you usually start with these little things, these first steps already in the outdoor? What
I take
is
them outside.
outside?
Since I did a small project on our school for girls who were misused by guys,
Mm-hmm.
young girls, 14, 15, 16 years. And you know what's going on with these girls? They have lost the trust of their own intuition, but also the trust in their body. Your
Mm-hmm.
body is your safe cocoon. Nobody is allowed, in my opinion, nobody is allowed to get into that bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember it. I'm quite what they call haptic. I put my hand on shoulders of people. How do you do? And but I don't know if you remember. I was
Yes.
quite physically intense. And I asked many times people, if you don't feel comfortable with that, please say it. And then I can do. But it's my natural way of acting with people.
Mm-hmm.
Working with these girls, the first time I started to try to hold my shoulder on a girl and said, "Come on, let's go to that tree and let's see how high you can get." She did this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is not good. This is not good. She didn't accept it that I touched her because um, she has completely lost that trust in herself and in other people because she was misused in a very bad way. You know the lover boys circuit. You know what lover boys are. You know what they are.
Yes.
So we had a lot of these horrible guys who start to get in touch with these young girls, and then they blackmailed them. So
Take
they,
advantage.
yep, they saw them as their they were the owner of these girls, and it was really horrible. Oh, I did a kind of we call it a mud run. I take kids outside. We walk for 5, 6 hours through nature without using any roads or single tracks. Only right through the forest, through the canals, through these little things that in Holland the water goes through under the road. It's muddy, it's stinking. And I had this girl with me, and I said, okay, we were walking through a canal of 1 meter wide. It was knee-deep water. And then we crossed the road. I said, we have to get to the other side. Okay, she wanted to go out the canal. I said, no, we have to crawl under it.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, it's dark, spiders, etc., etc. I said, again, look me in the eyes. Do you trust me? What do you mean? I said, do you really think I would let you do something that would harm you? No. Okay. I said, if you have that feeling, I will crawl backwards to that little canal, that tunnel. It was a tunnel maybe like this, a meter wide and round. I said, I will crawl backwards. I will hold your hand, and you will just follow my voice. And she had to go with her beautiful nails into the mud, and it was stinking. But at the end of the tunnel, she did perfectly.
That's
So,
really
what was happening at that moment, do you think? What was the most important thing that happened in that dark black hole?
well. I think first of all, she had to trust you. She had to listen to your voice, to hear again the communication between both of you, but also really the trust. Yeah.
Yeah. Afterwards, she did it again, but then alone.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So step by step, I gave her back the trust in herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a solid base to work on, and you give them some tools. You see what you get there. You can use it also in other things, maybe. But what do we need more to do? But it's what we sometimes forget is that these young people already have a hard life behind them. But we gave it for years and years time to settle in that, to let that settle in their personality. So it becomes a kind of trauma. There's a very famous Hungarian psychologist, Gabor Mate. He said the wisdom. He made a movie, a documentary. It's the wisdom of trauma. You can use trauma also to heal yourself, because it can also be used as a strength that's already inside of you.
It's the
So
empowerment part, right? It's taking power from your own
yeah,
perceived weaknesses.
you want them to get back in control of their own life. And where can we help them? How can we help them to get back to a regular school and to a decent job, to follow your heart instead of follow the rules of the street? Because it doesn't
And
bring you
I,
anything.
and I wanted to also ask you, because I mean, you have so much experience and you've worked in different ways. You have your own brand, let's call it, and also you work for you work with schools. But what about these other organizations or services for integration of migrants that they don't do any of outdoor education? What would be the advice for these organizations to maybe start, or how would they implement something that could be an open door to this world?
The hardest thing is, what I've noticed the last couple of years, is to make people aware of the benefits of this. Why
Yeah.
should we do this? People are still thinking in a quite traditionally way. It's also about learning, but also thinking about majority. They have to adapt. They have to speak our language. They have to eat our food, and etc. etc.
Yes.
So that polarization is going on. And it's more thinking in black and white. instead of dare to think in gray.
Mhm.
My mentor used to say, if you don't dare to think in gray and you only dare to think in black or white, you miss a lot.
Mm.
And you miss also a lot of opportunities. So dare to think that you're not sure.
Mhm.
And people in working with migrants, of course, there's a lot of polarization going on now. You know exactly the politics, how they work,
Yes.
and how they set the atmosphere in the society about migrants. Oh, they have to go there too much, etc. Horrible discussions.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So they don't take the time to see, because this takes time.
Mhm.
To make people aware of the benefits of outdoor learning, etc.
But do you
Because this,
think it's what is needed? More research, more advertisement, more policies?
in
What?
my opinion, first thing is that, for instance, what I next week I'm going back to a school here in my neighborhood, and they have introduced outdoor learning for years ago. I'm building their low rope course, and now next week I'm expanding it. They want to continue, but the first day I came there, first thing I needed to convince the teachers of the benefits of this as a tool. Instance, why should we learn these kids how to make a fire without a lighter? What I first did, I gave a workshop for the teachers.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Then we became, whoa, this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it starts with.
Mm-hmm.
Enthusiast, and then I try to give them the translation, how to transform it into learning. How can we use it as a learning tool? What's going on with making a fire?
Mm-hmm.
It's not only about the technical skill. No, if you do it as a group, there's more going on: cooperation, communication, working safely, making a plan, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what we need to do, I think, is first make them aware of the benefits of this. What is it actually? So organize workshops. There's
Yes.
free workshops, webinars, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes, and not only with the participants themselves, but make it broader, right? So
first with
everyone that is involved should
yeah,
know about it, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Uh, that's very interesting.
That's where it starts, because if you don't have them with you, they can only work against you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you will never get those
And it's
participants you
better
want
if
to.
also the teachers are working with you, for example, and right? It's also a broad sense of education in their own work, right?
It's a wider and better space to work with,
Mm.
and then they know what the benefits are.
Mm-hmm.
They will also, and they know their participants,
Mm-hmm.
and you can, for instance, what I did at school, they send it me. Sometimes I work one-to-one, and sometimes with little groups, but also sometimes one part of the school they had an issue with one individual pupil, kid, and they said, "Can you take him please with you, because we don't find out what is a sense of his problem. Why is he acting like he's acting? Can you take him with you for a day?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh, then I take him or her for a day with me.
Mm-hmm.
We go to work, and I come back with information that they can use, the teachers can use together
Mm-hmm.
with the kids. Maybe together we can come to a plan.
Again, it's about trust, building these trust connections and then
Yeah,
communicating about it also.
yeah. In my opinion, that's the most important thing.
Mhm. Okay, that's really good. I think we have a lot of good insights here, Gerrit, and I just wanted to say thank you for expressing your ideas, for telling us about your stories, your path. and giving all this information that could be really useful for other organizations, for other people who are interested in outdoor education, youth work. And it's
Do
been
whatever you want. If you think it can help you or others, use it. I always say you can use me, but just don't misuse me.
Thank you so much, Gerrit, and I hope to talk to you soon and see you soon in another training, hopefully.
Yeah,